Okay, I'm making a video format because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of online guides on how to move, and we followed them and learned a few things along the way of moving 7 times in the last 10 years. So here we go. I think the first thing that's important to think about is that moving is not a single project. We shoot ourselves in the foot by thinking of it that way, and then we get really overwhelmed. We can't keep all of the tasks and to dos all in one place in our head. So really you are working on like 7 projects: purging, packing, moving the packed things, unpacking and settling in and buying things for your new place, changing your address, making the old house rent ready, and finding a property manager and contracting with them. Personally, think all of those should be broken up into their own project, and then you make your own goals for each one and go through a set of prompts for each one to help you visualize and plan how to execute those efficiently and as stress-free as possible. So I have a few tips. There's a logistical group and then there's a mindset group. We'll do the logistical first because it's the easiest to digest. Number 1 is kits. You have the privilege of living in 2 places at once if you need to for a period here. You need to create kits for each of the living functions in each house to protect yourself from packing those things accidentally. So keep a kitchen kit of the most essential cooking tools in the kitchen in both houses. Essential bathroom kit, essential medications kit. You can think of it like a 1 week travel kit, like a basic set of clothes that'll get you through between laundry cycles, chargers, that sort of a thing. Keep those really essential kits at the original house and send a new one first thing to the new house. Make sure that's like in the front of the van you're unloading from when you move in, so that you just drop it in the bathroom in the new place, and then from there you can pack whatever you want and you'll know you will never be missing the essentials. 2, this is a common one, breaking up everything by room. So you walk around your house, maybe not all in one go, but with your partner and a notepad at hand, walk into one room at a time. Okay, we're in the bedroom. What are the big things that stick out that we're going to need to do? Okay, clothes. We definitely want to purge some of those before we go. So let's put that on the to-do list. We'll make another to-do list item of, okay, the bed. The bed is huge. We can't move that by ourselves. We need to arrange help for that. Just write all that stuff real quick, not exhaustively, and go through room by room, and you'll just have a really good lay of the land right off the bat. Eventually, you're going to break up those to-do lists by room that in a much more thorough way. 3 is measurements. It's extremely helpful to know ahead of time, if you can, all of the measurements of the new place you're moving into. And I mean very thoroughly, like, is there a low ceiling section? How tall is that ceiling? Space between windows, not just how wide the wall is. If you have a dresser and there's a window it's going to run into, you're not going to put it in front of the window. You need to know the space between the corner of the wall and that window's edge, right? Doors, where are the doors? Where are they swinging? All that stuff. Little nooks, if you have like narrow things that pieces of furniture or whatever, if someone can take pictures of the room and kind of draw the measurements on there and send it to you, have that on hand, have it in your phone, in a document in your phone. You can just pull it up to make any game time decisions when you're packing and moving. Okay, this is going to go in the kitchen, even though it's in the bedroom right now, this random piece of furniture. Or when you're shopping, oh my God, I didn't even think about buying something like this. You're shopping in IKEA and you're like, this might be perfect, but I don't know if it's going to fit. You can pull up that document on your phone and know for sure, oh, this would perfectly fit in the bathroom. Then we could just buy that right now. 4 is labeling. This is one that a lot of people don't explain very well, but the truth about labeling is what you really needed to do is you need to be able to quickly and easily identify from afar what's in a box. Like if you're craning your neck to go look in a pile of boxes in a shadowy corner in the moving truck and you want to know what's in that box, or just where it's piled up in the garage after you move in and you're just gradually unpacking things, you need to be able to see that box from any angle and know what's in it. Have a good idea at least. So I would recommend not just writing things on the outside, but having things like brightly colored tape or stickers or whatever you want to use, big symbols that you Sharpie on there. Like I use F with a big circle around it, and for fragile, because I'm not going to write that out every time. So you can make your own little vernacular. Like you can do tape colors by room, like red tape is kitchen, blue tape is bedroom 1, green tape is bedroom 2, that sort of a thing. and make sure you get every single side of the boxes and the top of the boxes, because when people are moving, they're going to be rotating those things around, and you need to be able to quickly identify that stuff when you're unpacking. Otherwise, you're going to lose stuff and it's going to be a huge hassle. You want to give yourself that flexibility. Then write the detailed stuff that's in there, especially if there's like a not clearly categorized box and there's just kind of random assembly of things in there. Definitely put the list of everything in there, so when you do crane your neck through the corner and try and find all those boxes, you go, okay, that is a kitchen box, let's go pull that one out. Then you can look at the outside of the kitchen box, not have to dig through it, and go, okay, these are the 5 items in there, and then this is the one I need to do. Another benefit of having 2 places you can live at the same time is that you can do multiple trips. But warning, the fewer trips the better. Don't do too many trips. The journey time, it really adds up, and on top of that, your mind gets more and more jumbled the more trips you do. Did we bring this last time? When are we going to bring this thing? It's just easier if you can to minimize the number of trips, pack more stuff into moving vans, and do it all at once if you can. Weather. Don't let weather slow you down, especially with the Southern California mindset. We often tend to be like, oh, well, we can just wait till... Don't wait. Just do it. Just plan for it. Like, okay, we need rain jackets. We need more ice water or whatever. We need more help. We need to do this at night, not during the heat of the day. Whatever it is, just be ready for that. It sounds dumb, but it's just another one of those tools in the toolkit to help you stay on schedule, which is really important for maintaining your morale, because then you won't get disappointed that you're behind. Another logistical tool for packing is thinking in reverse. While you're packing a box, while you're packing a room, while you're packing a large object, think to yourself, how will I wish this was packed when I go to unpack it? That's usually the best way to go about packing things. Okay, now I'm going to talk about mindset stuff. Moving is actually 2 jobs, really. It's the labor and it's also the emotion management, which there's a lot of. It's exhausting to make lots of critical thinking decisions through the whole process. You're going to feel your mind fading as you go. So the more little tricks you can use, little prompts you can ask yourself that help you think faster, the better. So here's some that I've picked up along the way. First of all, understanding where you're at right now on an emotional level. Like if you think about a top athlete, they're not just preparing with physical training, they're also unmasking all the emotional barriers that might interfere with their performance, and they're going to visualize and prepare for that as well. You're about to embark on like a marathon of moving, so you need to know what's going to come up, and it's actually not that hard to do that. If you can just sit down for 30 minutes and write down in full sentences, like what are all the kind of repetitive thoughts that have been coming into your head about this process? What are your expectations? A couple prompts that I find helpful are like, what for each major part, what are your expectations? How do you envision this happening? What does it look like when it's done? How long is it going to take? How difficult do you expect it to be? Who's going to be involved? What milestones do you expect to be completed and around when? And what do those mean to you in the process of completion? Another thing that's really helpful is using what if, like hyperbole scenarios. These can help reveal what's fueling your anxieties and also help reveal the true limitations of your circumstances. I'll give you an example. So if you say, what if some extreme thing? What if my back gets hurt again, right? What happens if that's the case? Then you full sentence write out exactly what you would do in that situation and how you would accommodate the timeline, or how you'd accommodate the resources you're putting into this to make sure the timeline happens either way. That will immediately allow your mind to be less anxious about that thing, and it'll give you an immediate picture of like exactly what you would do if that thing really did happen. So it's part of the planning process. On that note, moving every single time includes the emotion of overwhelm. So some specific tools for dealing with overwhelm and kind of nipping it in the bud that I find helpful, which some of these are really obvious. But for every project and every sub project, I'm talking like for purging, what's the sub project of that? Oh, purging what's in the bathroom. And within that, make sure you define for every single one of those what done looks like and what good enough looks like. It could be the same thing, but either way, just write out for every single one in list format. Like, what does done look like for the bathroom purging? What does done look like for moving everything in the backyard? Another one that's helpful for overwhelm is obviously chunking things out into smaller pieces. If you ever feel yourself getting overwhelmed, this is obviously the first place to start, but specifically doing it backwards. So now you've already defined what done looks like for everything. You can chunk backwards. So think like, okay, this is the end state. What milestone needs to happen in reverse for that end state to be manifested on time. And then that'll give you a really good idea of where you stand and what steps need to happen. And you become more accepting as well of like the realistic timeline for that thing, instead of just getting down on yourself or just freaking out about, are we even going to be able to get this done in time? Because you'll actually know. I think another good one for dealing with overwhelm is the hyperbole tool again. But this time you use it in the sense of like, what if we didn't purge at all? What if we just don't do that? Or what if we don't move for a whole year? What happens? These sorts of worst case scenarios, if you write out exactly what would happen, it'll give you an idea of what your actual boundaries are. For example, if I need rental income to afford to live in retirement, when does that need to start coming in and how much does it need to be? And that'll tell you your actual boundary of how long you have to actually move, right? Another issue you're gonna have to deal with on an emotional level is nothing's gonna be perfect. So just totally shift your thinking toward a least bad option type of thinking instead of what's the best plan I can make. Just always be like, what's the least bad version of this that I can choose? Or thinking of things in terms of like net suffering, like, oh, we could purge now and move with less stuff, but actually it would be such a struggle to do all of the purging now ahead of time, and maybe it would actually be easier to move some of that stuff. It'd be extra work, but have the time and flexibility to purge the rest of it later when we get there, right? So you could think about those like net stress that something could cause you, instead of thinking like really black and white, we have to get this done now. Just really like more cost benefit analysis with every single decision if you ever feel that overwhelmed feeling. This is something I fall prey to, maybe not you, but I tend to become attached to my plans. So sometimes the deadlines that I arbitrarily set for myself end up hurting me instead of serving me. So that could be something to keep in mind as well. If you know it's an arbitrary deadline and it's starting to stress you out, it should only be energizing you, right? So that could be a good red flag to stop and just say, okay, let me reassess. Do I actually have time to do this? Do I need to reschedule? It's these little things like of emotion management that will keep you going for that long marathon, right? Even though it sounds like, oh, I'll be able to deal with that. It's like you do have to put a little extra care into managing those little moments, because the whole process is made up of a million of those little moments. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is purging. It's one of the most mentally taxing decision-making processes of moving, in my opinion. And I think that you need to learn how to ask all the right questions. I mean, there's a reason why like freaking Marie Kondo has a show and stuff, right? Questions I think are helpful are like, have I used this thing in the last 2 to 3 years? Would I notice if it disappeared? If yes, would I still be sad about it 6 months from now? What if we get rid of this now and just purchase a new one when we get there? Would that be a net gain or a net loss? And you can even aggressively pile things in different sections using these prompts like, I haven't used these things in 2 to 3 years. And if you're worried about regret, just let it sit, sleep on it, next day come back and go through it one more time and just be like, no, actually this one I would like to keep. But then you will have done the hard work of making the piles already. And that really helps save time. So I'm just going to put these generally into a document and I'll send it your way. Hopefully this was helpful.